And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Benched with Bubba, episode 454. We are going to talk some more news because there's tons of it here in baseball these days and give us our fantasy baseball twist to get you ready for the first big draft weekend of the fantasy baseball season. In order to do so, first-time guest of the show, really looking forward to talking to this gentleman. He writes for Fantrax.com, RotoWire.com, and many, many more places. You can find him on Twitter at Corbin_Young21. Corbin, how we doing, man?
Hey, Bubba. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad you can make it. It's gonna be fun. It's been a long time coming, so I'm looking forward to it. But before we get into all the goodies here, why don't you kind of plug what you got going on? I mentioned where they can find you, but kind of throw everything on. I know you can do football stuff as well.
Yeah, I dabble with both fantasy football and baseball. Right now, primarily baseball stuff, and some work at Fantrax. I just started with RotoWire, doing some news, some player outlooks, and one article. And so, just kind of getting started with them, and a little bit baseball stuff with fantasy data as well, but primarily with Fantrax and RotoWire for now.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, we're going to talk about your first RotoWire article here at the end of the show because it's awesome stuff as usual. You go real deep in real deep. You do deep work into the data, but you make it understandable. That's why I don't say real deep. Like you do really, really good data work, but even lame brains like myself can figure it out. So that it is a very, very appreciative thing. But we're going to talk about a lot of the news that has taken place like over the weekend, over the last few days since I basically last did a podcast on news. Hit the big topics, hit some just storylines in spring training because there's tons of those. We're going to kick things off with the Boston Red Sox signing Trevor Story. Like once Correa took off, Story was the last big shortstop left, and it was down to Boston, maybe Houston. The Giants were in the mix, and a few other teams. But Boston made sense. He's going to go play second base this year, which had some multi-position eligibility. But what's your thoughts on Trevor Story going to Boston? Because his ADP's jumped almost a full round right now.
Yeah, no, I love it. Like you talked about, he's kind of just one of those rare players that probably could go like 30-20 with a tons of run RBI, so rightfully so that ADP is going to shoot up there. I think, obviously lineup context a lot better. Even if the batting average takes a dip, I haven't totally looked into the Babbitt Park factors for Fenway or anything like that. But yeah, I think some folks are worried about if Story's going to run or not. That's kind of been like the narrative that's kind of popped around here lately. But, it's obviously a small sample, but I kind of looked at last year's season under Alex Cora, so not including 2020, but kind of where they ranked in stolen base rate. I mean, last year they were second to last in stolen base rate, and then 2019 they're 21st, and then 2018 they're first. So I mean, but I looked back at team contact wise, who was there in 2018, but that was like Benintendi, Batz, Jackie Bradley, all kind of leading the Chargers. So I mean, just kind of based on who they have right now, they might finish towards the bottom again, but I don't think it's, I think Trevor Story is probably going to give you at least 15, close to 20, if not that, assuming health. So,
yep, I completely agree. It is kind of funny when I hear people saying, "Oh, he's not going to run anymore," and this and that. It's like Cora's not running, as you kind of said, based on their kind of team build. They didn't really have a ton of guys to run. Like when Rafael Devers is getting close to 10 bags, and that's pretty much all they got. And that just says a lot about the team. But now you have a player, Trevor Story, who can get you 15 to 20 bases, maybe 25 if he runs real hot. But I'm kind of with you. I'm still kind of thinking 15 to 20, and I think the power will be just fine. I know people are like, oh, his batting average will be better because he hit so many balls off the monster. Center field's a big BABIP section in Fenway, but Coors is a massive BABIP park as well. So we'll see how that transitions. But I think Story's gonna be just fine. I'm not too worried about it. And adding that multi-position eligibility is going to be really, really nice. It's like so many of the stud middle infielders not going to play all over the diamond, which makes it really, really nice when you're making your drafts this season. All right, let's go to Philadelphia. They made a couple splashes. They went and signed Nick Castellanos, which is a big move because I was kind of hesitant during draft season on Castellanos. Just we've seen him in bad ballparks to hit in, really scuffle. When he's in great ballparks, he's an offensive machine. So not many better places than Philadelphia for Casty to go to. So what's your thoughts on Nick Castellanos to Philadelphia?
Oh, yeah. I love Nick Castellanos. I targeted him in TGFBI last year and then again this year, and just was like, I was thinking like worst case scenario, if he goes back to a park like the Tiger, it's like he still can be pretty good. So I was like, I'm going to guess that it's not where he's going to land. He's going to land on a team that's trying to win. So, I was just buying into that, and he's just a good hitter. I mean, it's kind of like he doesn't have those steals, but, it's okay. He's like that 4 category contributor.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I feel kind of foolish because, like you said, he wasn't going back to Detroit, and I can't remember who said it on what show, but one very smart analyst said we should have all known better that majority of these players were going to sign in a beneficial location for them. Like we were all a lot of us, not we all, a lot of us were hesitant on certain players because we didn't know where they would land. But it's like Castellanos is not going to go sign a deal to go play somewhere that makes him not play well for his next deal to stink. Like that just doesn't make sense. So it's a great landing spot, great offense because now they add Kyle Schwarber to go right behind him. Like the projected lineup has like Schwarber at 1. You have like Hoskins 2 possibly, and then you have Harper and Casti and Real Muto. It's awesome. So what's your thoughts on Schwarber, who looks like the full-time DH for the Philadelphia Phillies?
Yeah, it's so weird to see. Like, I mean, I obviously has the OBP skills, but projected bad leadoff, right?
Yep.
For Schwarber, kind of like you're not traditional leadoff hitter there. But no, I mean, he's just a monster. I mean, he was just totally dominant in that first half, kind of before the injury. Just a ton of, but power still stuck around in post injury. Batting average went up a little bit when I looked at that. I mean, the home run for fly ball rate was up like 3% over the career average. So I mean, even that regressed a little bit. He's going to be like a 30+ home run bat. Hopefully he's healthy. Could be more. I mean, he could push 40 if he's healthy. But yeah, no, I love that a lot.
Yeah, it's a big move, and it's just like you throw Schwarber in there. I mentioned you throw Casti in there, and it's just got to bump up, Hoskins' value. Harper's already a first round, or you got Real Muto. They're all going to benefit tremendously from this offense, and it's kind of a trickle down effect. I guess if we had to point at one thing that might not be great is Gene Segura now, who was potentially going to lead off for the team, might be batting like 6th or 7th, so that's kind of a bummer. But as a whole, I know it's been a weird topic of conversation on certain parts of Twitter. Where do you kind of rank this Phillies offense from a fantasy perspective out of like one of the top offenses in fantasy?
Yeah, I mean, I like it a lot. I mean, they obviously don't have a ton of stolen bases, so like
Yeah.
I mean, it almost kind of reminds me of like a little bit of the Yankees per se, where it's just a ton of power, ton of counting stats, things like that. But no, I mean, I kind of like. I mean, I guess I would hate to be like a Reds or A's fan, but but I kind of like how these teams are like, you know what, we're gonna sign these kind of big names and just like and do that. So I know I like that a lot. Their offense is pretty good, but yeah, Gene Segura kind of getting bumped down. But they could mess around the lineup.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Segura's got some good OBP batting average skills too, so they could kind of move things around as the season goes on. So
I completely agree with you. I think there'll be a point where it's like, okay, Schwarber's got his good OBP, but he's not running. He's clogging up the base paths. Like, let's put Gene back up here and put Schwarber 6th. Like
yeah.
that's an easy move that would make actually a lot of sense. So I wouldn't be shocked by that, and I'd be a big fan of that for my early Gene shares. The Minnesota Twins, like you mentioned, the Reds and the A's, and in years past, the Twins kind of fit that mold. Not this year. They're aggressive. They already did the Sonny Gray move. They traded Josh Donaldson. They're making moves, and now they just went and signed Carlos Correa to a lot of money. So like you get an improved defender at shortstop for this squad. Obviously, we know the bat with Carlos Correa. Health is the issue. What's your thoughts on Correa in Minnesota? Because I'm not really usually a Correa guy, so it doesn't really move the needle for me. But some people absolutely love it.
Yeah, I'm not really a Correa guy either. It's just kind of the health, and then it's usually in that middle infield or shortstop, you're looking for some guy that's going to get you some speed. Yeah, I mean, 640 plate appearances, most since 2016. I mean, if we're expecting another healthy season, I mean, we hope that, but yeah, I mean, I guess if you just kind of plan otherwise around steals, it could be fine. Assuming I don't think he's going to get kind of the same runs in RBI that he did last year, just because the Twins are not terrible, but they're like pretty serviceable. But yeah, I was a little surprised with the Carlos Correa move, just because I mean, last year they moved Jose Barrios and like some other guys, and then I was like, oh, maybe they're just going to tear it down, and then it's like, oh nope, they brought in whatever kind of Falefa and a couple of guys for like 1 second, and they trade him back out. So I mean, maybe they're just trying to just patch some things up and hope that they can win with what they got. But no, I do like that for Sonny Gray, just from like a infield perspective of a good defender and stuff like that. The other guys they have, I think, a little more like fly ball pitchers. I think with Joe Ryan and Isaac Bailey over. So I don't know how much that has to do
Yeah.
with there, but yeah.
No, I'm with you. Like Sonny Gray will be the big benefactor here. They'll get a little bump at the Armor Flyball pitchers, as you mentioned, and they're still discussing potentially trading for like Frankie Montas or Sean Manaea, which would be pretty interesting as well. So the Twins are going for it, which is fun to see, and they're doing it different. They're doing it like in a small, because Correa's only a 3-year deal. I think Sonny's got like 2 or 3 years left, so it's kind of a let's go for it for a year or two. If it doesn't work, we'll trade guys off and reload type thing. So it's fun to see these kind of. I know there's no such thing as a small market team in baseball, but what we consider maybe a smaller market team making some splashes. So that's kind of fun to see for sure. The Atlanta Braves, this one shocked me quite a bit because it felt like Will Smith did a great job last year, 37 saves. It was kind of his role. If anything, maybe they'd bring back Craig Kimbrell. Well, they went and signed Kenley Jansen, who I swore was going back to the Dodgers. So this is a big, big move. He's going to step right in the closer's role for the defending World Series champions. What's your thoughts on Kenley in Atlanta?
Yeah, that was definitely surprising. I can't say I've really targeted Will Smith at all, but yeah, I know there are a couple people that I know that are like, I'm just drafting Kenley because wherever he goes, he's going to close. And yeah, of course, I had to go to a team that everybody was drafting Will Smith as the closer or the expected closer. I mean, Kenley's just a smart pitcher, right? Like you just. In terms of eliciting weak contact and stuff, like I don't ever dig too deep into relievers, or closers. Just kind of like I let other people that do that deep analysis there and kind of rely on what they got to say. But yeah, I mean the cutter is just that that pitch that it's just gonna keep eliciting weak contact there, and it's he's just a smart guy. So I mean, yeah, if they give him the job, I mean, assuming health and stuff like that, he should be just fine.
Yeah, it's a health thing. The strikeouts continue to be there. He's walking guys more, but like you said, that cutter's gonna do the cutter thing. And he should have plenty of save chances there. So I kind of have him going over Aroldis Chapman in my book. I know some disagree with that, but that's kind of the area he's going in drafts right now with those two kind of next to each other. So it'll be fun to see how that one goes. San Diego Padres, they made a big move. We know they want to get rid of Eric Hosmer. They couldn't do it, but they still brought in Luke Voit, who had nowhere to go with the Yankees once Rizzo came back. So early reports, Voit will be the DH, might play some first base when lefties are on the mound, but they're going to try to play him every day if they can. And that's a big if because he can't stay healthy. So what's your thoughts on Luke Voit going to San Diego?
Yeah, I know. I mean, they definitely need some hitting depth, right? Like if you looked at the lineup before Voit without Fernando Tatis, it looks pretty awful, right? Outside of Manny Machado, there's so many question marks up and down that lineup with just some struggles. I mean, Jake Cronenworth is great, but it's like you need a little more depth than that. No, I do like it a lot. He's a good hitter. He's got a good OBP skills. So I mean, last I looked at his ADP, I mean, it's probably before, it probably hadn't jumped yet, but it was like in the 200s or 250, I thought. So, I mean, if you drafted him there, you just, that's totally just, you lucked out there and, just kind of, he's probably going to jump at least probably top 200, I would guess at this point.
Yeah, I just submitted an article for Fantrax, ADP risers due to transactions. And since the day he was traded as of yesterday's on the 21st ADP, he had jumped 46 spots already. So he's on the move. That is for sure. And we know that the power is legit, which is crazy. But man, if he could just stay healthy, because I've written more Luke Voit articles than I care to write ever again, I think. And the talent's tough to beat, but stay healthy, kid. Please stay healthy.
Yeah.
The Marlins, they've made a few moves this year. Also, Avisel Garcia, they've made a couple here and there. Now they go and bring in Jorge Soler. This was kind of a surprise. They were trying to trade for Brian Reynolds. Couldn't get that one worked out. So they went and got Jorge Soler. Again, not the best ballpark to hit in, but he's going to play right now, projected to play center field. That's where he's been playing all spring, which is interesting. And an article came out on Wednesday saying unless something goes wrong, should play most of the time in center field. So what's your thoughts on Jorge Soler in Miami, who not the best ballparks, but there's not many ballparks that will contain Jorge Soler.
Yeah, I was going to say that power is going to play anywhere. I think whether there's some validity to this, he's pretty streaky. If you kind of look at some of the rolling graphs, like I kind of remember back in 2019, he just like went on a tear in the second half. But if you look at some of the rolling graphs on Fangraphs, like, I mean, basically the home run to fly ball rate just aligns with the WOBA like perfectly. So, I mean, just a small sample, but yeah, with KC, he was awful, still hit the ball hard, but a little more contact, a little more bad luck there. And he just, dominated with Atlanta there. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's going to affect the power a little bit. But yeah, I mean, he's just got so much raw power. It's kind of like that Phillies offense is kind of like, where do all these guys play in the outfield? I mean, it's not as deep, but I don't know. I thought, yeah. Did you say who was going to play center field? Did you say Avisail Garcia was going to
No,
play
they say it's supposed to be Solaire. That was the article that
Oh,
came out today, which was kind of surprising to many.
okay.
They want Solaire there. They want Avi, I think, in one of the corners. And that leaves Jesus Sanchez, Brian De La Cruz, I think even one other guy.
That is interesting. I thought Solaire was like almost as bad as like
Yeah.
Marcelo Ozuna out there. So I'm not sure how that's going to go.
Yeah, no, it was very surprising. Let's put it that way. Mike Curlin does his lineup takeaways, and he kept saying since they're going to play in center field, he's playing like every spring game in center field. I'm like, there's no way. And then he showed me an article that said center field. Now, if you look at roster resource, it still has Solaire in left field, has Jesus Sanchez in a platoon in center field with Brian De La Cruz, and it has Avisail Garcia in right field. So that's where they're penciling on getting Garrett Cooper at DH. So we'll wait and see. They also have Jazz Chisholm Jr. Platooning with John Birdie, which I don't see happening, but we'll see how that one goes. The Cubs, I'll give the Cubs a little credit because I think what they're doing is kind of bush league because they have tons of money and they're buying a soccer team, for crying out loud. So they can't cry poor, but they are. And but they did sign Jonathan VR after they signed Seiya Suzuki last week. We talked about him already, but Jonathan VR is one of those guys that I was getting late in a lot of drafts just because usually he signs with a bad team that's got needing to play enough with his utility skills. And next thing you know, if you look at his like career stats, double-digit homers, double-digit stolen bases almost every single season. He just finds ways to do it. Chicago should be a place where he'll get plenty of run here and there just because wisdom, strikeout rates, and others. What's your thoughts on VR in Chicago?
Yeah, I kind of thought the same thing with VR. I wish I had kind of drafted him just kind of where he was at before he signed, just because, I mean, I didn't realize he played that much last year, like over 500 plate appearances. Like, I guess I kind of was like, oh, he's on the Mets and there's too many people in the infield. He's just never going to see time. But yeah, 18 and 14. And I think he's just a compiler, right? So you're just hoping that he's gonna but at that ADP, you're just hoping that he's gonna compile. I think 15 homers, 20 stolen bases is within reasonable reasonable projection for him. And so I think that's fine. I think that, and then with like wisdom and all these other guys like that kind of popped up last year. I mean, VR can play all over the infield pretty much. I mean, I don't know if his defense is very good, but he's at least going to play all over the infield just because, so.
Yeah, they'll give him a chance in the infield. He can even play the outfield if they get desperate. Like they're going to plug him out there somewhere. But like Wisdom's got that great power. Everybody wants to see him. But if you strike out like 45% of the time, eventually that comes to an end also. Shortstop with Nico Horner, second base with Nick Madrigal. They're good, but they're going to need some breaks as well. So there's going to be time for Johnny VR. And I'm really intrigued with it because, like you mentioned, he accumulated over 500 plate appearances last year. And when you just look at VR as a whole, I mentioned the double-digit homers and stolen bases, but the dude somehow, even though he technically doesn't have like a starting spot, like when he starts the season, he still plays like, I'm pulling it up right now, at least like 130, or he's played 122 or more games in the last 5 full seasons, not counting the short in 2020 where he played 52 with a 60. But he finds ways to play games, which is hilarious to me. So, Johnny VR, big fan of that situation. The Detroit Tigers, they made a few moves here and there. I love the Erod move way back when. But they brought in Michael Pineda. And there's a lot of pros and cons with Michael Pineda, probably more cons than pros. But he does go to a favorable atmosphere in Detroit. He's pitched in the Central before. Any intrigue for a guy like Pineda, like super deep leagues, or is it just like, you know what, maybe I'll stream him from time to time?
Yeah, he's only a streamer. I got a weird bias against Michael Pineda. Maybe it's a pine tar. Maybe it's being a former Mariners pitcher or something. But I think he only really goes about 5 innings. He's really only got one decent pitch with the slider. The slider's like, okay, like it's good, but it's not like, just like, it's not like Louise Castillo's changeup or something where it's just so dominant kind of that he can get away with it. So, I mean, he's okay. 4-seamer kind of stinks, but he's just a streamer. I mean, you're probably just hoping that you're looking at a good matchup, pitching at home kind of thing or something. So,
yeah, I'm with you. It's just, man, he showed so much potential at one time, but then I guess the pine tar kind of took that potential away. Maybe we found out why there was potential there. He was just too dumb to even hide it properly. But we'll see how that plays out. Another kind of weird move, but we've seen him be fantasy viable from time to time is Drew Smiley signing with the Cubs. I've always been very hesitant to Drew Smiley, but there's some very smart people that like love what Drew Smiley can bring to the table. So, are you in or out on Drew Smiley with the Cubs?
I'm out. This is one that when you put it on the rundown, I like kind of missed this move. Like I don't even recall this move popping up. I'm just out because I mean, it's just, a small sample. I mean, he was good in 2020, right? With like 26 innings with the Giants. A lot of injuries. I mean, pitch movement's pretty good. I hadn't really looked at Drew Smiley too deeply for today, but yeah, I mean, pitch movement's pretty good on the cutter and four seamer. We'll see. I mean, he'll probably get a chance to start. I mean, I haven't looked at the Cubs starting rotation, but he's probably got a chance to start there with Marcus Stroman and Kyle Hendricks leading that charge there.
Yeah, no, it's not very deep when you look at roster resources. Stroman, Hendricks, Wade Miley, Alec Mills, Drew Smiley. That's where we're at. So, going to be some rough days in Chicago this season. The Red Sox, this is just a minor one, Hansel Robles, but I just want to bring him up because he had his chances to close last year. Matt Barnes is kind of the guy for now, but that's how it was last year. In your super deep leagues, is there any interest in taking a flyer on a guy like Hansel Robles? There's just kind of a in-season situation for him.
I mean, maybe. Not really. I mean, unless it's like a DC or something where you're just looking to hopefully get something late in the draft. But yeah, I'm kind of in on a Matt Barnes bounce back. Yep. Just kind of, I think right where it kind of fell off, he kind of had COVID in August, and I kind of believe in the small sample of the K-VB and chase rate and stuff like that. And so, I think Barnes will be kind of fired up to kind of prove that it wasn't just a short little thing there, but.
Yeah, I like Barnes as well. I think he's a great value in drafts right now because he's going to get that first start, and barring something going horribly wrong, he should hold on to that job for quite a while. So I like Matt Barnes quite a bit. The Dodgers, they signed Tyler Anderson. Again, not the flashiest move, but they have some injury history in that rotation. He's projected to be the fifth starter right now, which is kind of surprising. Any interest on Anderson on the Dodgers?
Yeah, I watch him a little closer when he got traded over to the Mariners. I mean, he's not super sexy or anything, right? He's kind of got some decent ratios. He's kind of a command control guy, pitch to contact profile, limits the walks. And, I mean, outside of, I guess, he kind of had some injuries, I guess, but, he hit a pretty decent amount of innings. But again, upside isn't there. But, who knows? The Dodgers could unlock something, but yeah, I think he's probably just going to feel kind of like a spot start here and there. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to trust any organization to help with pitching, I guess it's going to be one of those teams is going to be the Dodgers. So, yeah, probably a floor play, but not too much upside.
I'm with you there. Like he's intriguing, like for the floor, like you mentioned, but he's not going to wow your socks off at all. But we got breaking news. It dropped about 10 minutes ago, and this opened up MLB trade rumors. And I've been waiting for this man to sign because I have so many shares of this individual, and this is a great location to sign in. The Reds have signed Tommy Pham to a 1-year deal. We know Pham had a down year last year, but if you look at the deeper stats, at least for me, there was a lot to still like there. Projections still love him for double-digit homers and power. He's going super cheap in drafts. What's your thoughts on Tommy Pham hitting the Cincinnati and Great American Small Park?
I mean, he's another guy that just needs to stay healthy. He's going to provide power and speed. No, I like that a lot. Yeah, that's probably good. And then I think they needed. I think Pham's a pretty good defender. I'm not pulling it up here.
He's not bad, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, like they kind of needed a someone out there. No, I like that a lot. That's good. That's great. Because I think last year he was kind of outside of injuries, he's a little like not platoon, but they're kind of shifting some guys around a lot. So yeah, if he gets full-time playing time when healthy, yeah, you should feel confident just kind of rolling him out there.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped on that one because even Yancey Eaton, who's a big Tommy Pham guy, he was tweeting out the other day. He's like, can someone please sign him so I feel better about all the times I've drafted him? And I was kind of thinking the same thing. And, roster resource, obviously, it's early. They haven't projected to hit 6, play left field full-time for the Reds with India, Naquin, Votto, Stevenson, Moustakas hitting in front of them. So pretty good move, actually. I can kind of get behind that one. Again, kind of like the joke I made with Castellanos. Pham signed in a favorable location, a 1-year deal, so we could try to maybe get a 2 or 3 year deal next year before he retires. This is a really good move. I like this one quite a bit. All right, let's talk about some more news that has taken place here over the last few days. Shane Baz of the Tampa Bay Rays. Popular young arm that people are swooning over because the stuff is really, really electric. But there's always been some innings concerns and whatnot. He's shut down at least 2 to 3 weeks now, which is really going to curtail some fantasy value. So what's your thoughts on Shane Batz for the 2022 fantasy baseball season?
Yeah, I was never into him.
Just I have no shares either.
Just kind of based on that ADP, too small of a sample. I mean, he could be Alek Manoah of 2021, where he just whenever he's ready, he's ready. I mean, he showed us a small sample, couple really good breaking pitches. I really liked Corey Kluber and Drew Rasmussen and Luis Patino, so that probably solidifies their role a little bit more. But yeah, I wasn't really actively targeting him at all, just because that ADP was just a little too rich for a guy with such a small sample.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Like I was like, okay, yeah, he's really good, but he's going super high. Probably not gonna throw a ton of innings again this year. Lots of question marks. Like, why am I drafting him here again? So I'm 100% with you. Like I always say, if I'm wrong on a guy, I'm okay being wrong on a guy. And he's one of those. Like if he would have knocked everybody's socks off this year, kudos, thumbs up. But I wasn't going to have any shares at all. Luis Urias of the Milwaukee Brewers. He was a popular target with his multi-position eligibility. Quad injury, supposed to be out a few days. Hopefully he's okay, but already banged up at the end of the season. What's your thoughts on Urias this year?
Yeah, this one hurts a lot. I don't think I've drafted him yet. I only have a couple teams drafted, but yeah, he was a target of mine. Just especially that multi-eligibility. There were some changes in the profile that I kind of liked. Looking at him in the offseason. But yeah, the Brewers don't really have that much depth, so I'm not really sure who's gonna like really benefit outside of just like only maybe a deep league streamer, maybe Jace Peterson, Mike, maybe the Rays guy, Mike Brasso, kind of platoons there. I really like Keston here for a bounce back, but I don't know how he's going to fit in there with that injury. Like, I don't know who's going to move over to third, or, what I mean? Like, I don't know if Adames moves over, I don't think that's going to happen, but, I don't know. In theory, maybe Adames moves over somewhere, Colton Wong, but yeah, it just seems like they don't have much exciting fantasy depth, that would make me be like, yes, get the next man up kind of thing.
Yeah, right now they have Jace Peterson and Brosu platooning, which is going to be a tough one. Peterson had his moments last year, though. I'll say that much. So hopefully it's not too serious. But Keston is he changed his stance. There's some optimism there. I know you're not the only one that's hoping for that bounce back. I'm a big Rowdy Tellez fan, so he'll cut into Rowdy's time, which would be a bummer. But this team's got some talent, so if we get some Keston hero action going, I'm not going to hate that one at all. The Washington Nationals, Carter Kieboom out 4 to 6 weeks, might not have been a fantasy target for anyone, but what it does do brings back the ghost of Miguel Franco. Any interest in Miguel Franco, even in the deepest of leagues?
Yeah. So I do some RotoWire news, and yeah, that was one of the things that popped up. Was like Miguel Franco could earn more playing time, and I was like, man, where has this guy been? Just kind of bouncing around. But he's just going to be for a power bat. I think he's got to make the team. I think he's an NRI right now, but I don't even know how to say that guy's name that used to be on the Twins here, Adrianza. When I looked at his profile, it doesn't look like anything fantasy, special at all. Miguel Franco might be like a cheap power bat if you're looking for that. But I'd probably just wait and see there and look elsewhere, really.
Yeah, I'd say like in 15-team leagues, only leagues, he's the least intriguing. We've seen him even when he doesn't hit for a good average, like with the Orioles recently, obviously with the Phillies. He's got ridiculous power. So by no means am I saying run out and draft him, but I'd at least have him on your radar now type situation, because if he sneaks into everyday at bats there, the overall team's not going to be great, but the top part of that lineup is going to be at least pretty good. And that could make some nice RBI opportunities for Miguel Franco. A few more here. Jose Barrero, big Cincinnati prospect at shortstop. People were looking forward to seeing him break with the team. Now he's got at least 6 weeks with a hamate injury. Means Kyle Farmer's back at shortstop. So any thoughts on the Barrero Farmer shortstop situation in Cincinnati?
Yeah, I wasn't too into Barrero, but yeah, that probably just solidifies Farmer's spot there. I thought he had more eligibility, but maybe that was last year for Farmer. He's just a farmer. Kyle Farmer's just kind of a boring accumulator. He's serviceable in 15-team leagues, but he's not gonna, pop off the page or anything. So he's an accumulator, so he's fine to kind of have your MI spot or something.
Yeah, most definitely. I'm with you on that one. Sticking with the Reds, Lucas Sims will not be ready for opening day. Think of guys like Luis Sessa and Art Warren and others. If you had to try to draft a closer in Cincinnati, who would you be looking at?
Probably Art Warren. I was kind of avoiding this bullpen here because it was super frustrating last year with Heath Hembry and Michael Givens leading the team with 8, and there was like a bunch of players with 6 or 7 saves. Especially when they traded away Mayor Garrett, I just was like, all right, it's going to be someone else, you know. But Art Warren's, you know, got a pretty good slider, and that's, you know, if I'm looking for a reliever, you know, I'll look for a dominant pitch like that with a 25% swinging strike rate, you know, 47% chase rate, you know, 123 wOBA. So I haven't drafted Art Warren anywhere, but if he would be the one guy, especially because he's going like pretty late, if I recall.
Yeah, he's going very, very late. So I'm with you on Art Warren. It kind of stinks because in DC, he's one of my later targets thinking, okay, we'll stash him. But now it's like people are kind of wising up to that situation. So that would be the route I would go as well. Mitch Keller. I know you've tweeted some stuff on Mitch Keller. You even wrote some stuff on Mitch Keller. We saw the videos in the offseason about the velocity increase and how he's kind of using his repertoire a little differently. And, you know, people are like, oh, it's just a video. Well, he came out in that first spring start and looked pretty darn good. Looked really good before it hit with a line drive. He's supposedly fine, set to make his next appearance here in spring. What's your thoughts on Keller this year? You know, the prospect pedigree is there. Maybe a little tweak's all it's going to take.
Yeah, no, I did like Keller a lot, kind of research him. I threw him in one of like kind of my last kind of like dart throw, kind of Freddie Peralta type breakout guys. And yeah, there are people being like, Mitch Keller sucks, gross. But, you know, we do this a lot, right? It's like, I try to remember that, like, we can't look at what this pitcher did and just be like, that's what he's going to be moving forward. I mean, if you look at him, it's just, you know, former top prospect, you know, struggled hard. So I kind of want to see what went wrong. I mean, you look at the, you know, just kind of surface stuff of like the BABIP left on base rate. It was just kind of awful, you know, so, you know, 385 BABIP, you know, so it's like if that kind of regresses there, some of the ratios are going to even out. He never really had a home run problem. You know, he kind of limited some of the home runs. So I kind of like that. I kind of was one time earlier on, I was tweeting like, I think the pitch mix needs to change. Like maybe I didn't know what to what, but Rob Silver was like, what is he going to increase? Like everything sucks. And, you know, I mean, he was just kind of like, he was just kind of like half joking, but like, you know, I mean, that was a good point, right? It's like, we say like, oh, this should change. And it's like, well, to what? Like, what is it going to change to? So, I mean, you know, like the slider was like the only pitch that was like pretty good. So I was like, maybe this one, you know, it's just like, so, I mean, he has 2 good breaking pitches. And yeah, and then right after I kind of posted that article, someone sent me the tweet of the Tread Athletics things, and I was like, yes, validation. But so you know, but you know, one of the videos I was looking at with the coach from Tread Athletics, he was using some of the Savant data and some of their technology, and they're comparing Mitch Keller's stuff to Garrett Cole's stuff. Now, that's not to say that Keller is going to turn to Garrett Cole. All it's saying is that kind of the movement profile and, you know, kind of the shape of the pitches kind of looked similar. You know, so I kind of like that narrative kind of backing up what I was already kind of looking at. So hopefully that translates into results. You know, velo's up. You know, it's kind of like, you know, I kind of joked about like best shape of your life, right? If there's someone that is just awful or just not playing well or something, and they're gonna like make some actionable changes, like go train and figure something out, you know. So then I'm gonna kind of buy into that. Or like Vlad Guerrero, you know, I didn't get any Vlad Guerrero, but you know, we look at Vlad Guerrero and we're like, man, yeah, I guess he could benefit from having better body composition. That'd probably help his baseball skills. And, you know, and it's like, so those kind of things, I think, you know, we don't want to buy into every kind of hype video, but if there's something that kind of makes sense, I kind of just go, okay, well, look, if the research says this, and that just adds to it. So,
yeah, I'm 100% with you. And that's why the Keller one, I kind of I wasn't annoyed, but I was like, everyone's writing it off so fast. And I'm like, this guy used to be like had the signs being really good. Like, I'm not going to say, like you said, he's not going to be Garrett Cole, but he had some flashes of like some really good stuff. And we've said it with so many pitchers when they make a pitch mix change or a velocity change or something, all of a sudden, look at here they are. So what was stopping him? Like why were you just discounting this because he was so bad? We'll see. It was one spring start. A lot can change still, but I'm very happy with what we saw. It sounds like you're very happy with what we saw. Have you drafted Mitch Keller anymore?
oh yeah, the two 15 teams I've had, TGFBI and this other like relegation draft that we do. Mitch Keller and Jesus Luzardo, they're two guys that I just been like nonstop, just making sure I get out there. Luzardo was another guy that I put out there, and somebody was like, "He sucks." I'm like, "Well, yeah, he has sucked, but you know."
What are you expecting from Luzardo this year? Because that last start was great to finish the season. Plus his first start in spring, we saw the velocity up. What are your kind of expectations for Luzardo?
Yeah, so I think although it didn't translate into results, he did make a pitch mix change when he was with the Marlins. And so it didn't translate to results, but I kind of like that. And, the Marlins have been good about just kind of like developing some change ups with like Sandy Alcantara and stuff like that. And so kind of assuming that the change up's going to also improve, plus the breaking pitch is pretty good, lower that fastball usage a little bit and just kind of, another year of development there. I think I'm in. And so, yeah, he's another guy, just like Mitch Keller, right? It's like results are bad, but if we look a little deeper there, the stuff's really good. And so that's kind of what I was leaning at, basically.
Well, that's what it's all about, is finding those late guys in drafts that can take that turn, that all of a sudden you're getting massive value out of them. And you could at least see it with those two guys potentially. And if, like I always say, if it doesn't work, you drop them. It didn't cost you anything. So it's a good place to be. Louise Castillo, shoulders kind of flaring up. There's been some mixed reports the last couple of days, but there's a chance he could be back in a couple of weeks. There's a chance he could miss the first month of the season. There's already jokes that means, no cold weather baseball, then he's fine. What's your thoughts on Louise Castillo, who was kind of a draft day bugaboo for many this year?
Yeah, I think I was trying to look at what it was. And I think it's a shoulder soreness. So whatever that is, right? Like before I used to be like, says shoulder. We don't want anything to do with this. But I've kind of been realizing that, if not all shoulder injuries are the same, right? So I think, who knows, shoulder soreness could be that there's some fatigue from wrapping up too quickly or some other reasons, so I wouldn't panic, especially because his ADP is probably the lowest it's ever been in his 2 to 3 year career, past 2 to 3 years or so. So I wouldn't necessarily panic, but I would be looking elsewhere if you're really worried about it. I mean, just because if you're worried about kind of last year, the skills, it's kind of like with some of these other pitchers, like it's like, do you think that they're trending down, or was this just a down year? So, I mean, career worst whip last year, K minus BB was awful, career worst strikeout rate or near career worst strikeout rate. Changeup wasn't as great. So, I mean, if you're kind of thinking he's going to bounce back, then probably a great value there around pick 100. But so I wouldn't panic if you drafted him. I would just kind of be like monitoring what's going on there, and hopefully it's nothing too serious.
Yeah, it's been one of my discussion points lately with Louise Castillo. Was like, yes, it wasn't great last year. And yes, you can't take out a month of the season or even 2 months. But after that, he was one of the best pitchers in baseball in the grand scheme of things. And he was going so early last season in drafts. Now, like you said, now he's like pick 100. Are we, quote unquote, punishing him too much when it comes to draft day? Like, we know he's still very, very good. There's always been whip concerns with Castillo, between walks, bad defense behind him because he's a heavy ground ball guy. But the strikeouts are legit. He can have some monster games. So it's kind of a running dialogue in my head when it comes to draft day. Like, okay, pick 100-ish, give or take, it's a fun spot, but do I still want to take that pick? And that's the conundrum I have every time I draft. Jazz Chisholm, minor injury, should be back this weekend. Teoscar Hernandez, minor wrist injury, should be back this weekend. Any other spring standouts that have kind of, or any kind of stat lines, velocity changes, anything standing out to you this spring that you wanted to talk about?
Not a ton, like, to be honest, there's just been so much news of players that like I haven't even been able to keep track of it all. It seems like every day there's like 50 new things that I need to keep track of. I think in terms of notable spring training, I'm always like hesitant to see like what, I don't know what we should be paying attention to. I mean, Joe Adell's been getting some buzz. But Joe Adell's kind of already got, he's not got a super late ADP, but he's got a, late enough where it's kind of worth the gamble there. No, I think the only guy that I realized that I wasn't even on my radar, but should have been, but I didn't know he was healthy, was CJ Abrams. I mean, I don't think he's going to be up right away, but the dude is just mashing. And not to say we don't, Fernando Tatis is going to be injured, for longer than we want, but this guy's one of their top prospects. I think he tore his ACL or something, or he hurt his knee last year or something. But yeah, if this guy's ready to go, I mean, he might. The Padres have shown, they'll call this guy, earlier, but I don't know. He's just a name to monitor.
Yeah, and if he's playing well, they can just bring Tatis back to the outfield. That's not a problem either. So that is definitely something to monitor. Mackenzie Gore had another solid outing for the Padres on Wednesday, so he's something to monitor as well. Looks really good. There's been some interesting things like Julio Rodriguez for your Seattle Mariners appears to be starting out the team. Are you a believer in that?
I'm a skeptical Mariners fan, so when the team is bad for 2 decades, you kind of get a little pessimistic. But I'm excited about the future for sure. I think they've kind of been, and James Anderson has kind of noted this, but I think they've kind of been a little more careful with Julio Rodriguez. Like they're kind of moving him slowly. I think he was up in Everett at single A for a little too long. And, so I don't even think he's touched triple A yet. So it seems like they're being a little extra careful with him. So he should debut in 2022, but, I don't know what they're doing there.
Yeah, no, I can. I'm torn on him because he's been so good. Some people are like, "Oh yeah, he's gonna play," but I'm kind of also with you where they've never shown they're willing to do this really. Like even the clinic thing last year. Why would we think it's different for Julio? But we'll see. How do you feel about your Mariners? You got Mitch Haniger, like fantasy wise. Mitch Haniger's there off a big year. You got Winkers in town and some other Ty France. Like any guys really interest you there?
Yeah, I mean, I love Eugenio Suarez for a bounce back. And that was like pre-trade. Yeah, I like what they're doing here. I hope they can get maybe one more pitcher. Because they're going to get kind of thin there if Marco Gonzalez or Flexen or one of these guys doesn't, do as well, then you're stuck with like Robbie Ray and Gilbert kind of leading that rotation there. I like the offense, so we'll kind of see how that shakes out, but yeah,
it'll be fun. Be fun for sure. Let's check out your first article at RotoWire.com, a place where I've told Jeff and the others I've been a member since I was in college, so well over 15 years, almost 20 years now. 3 potential hitter values. What were you looking for when you're looking for these 3 bats? Like what kind of your criteria?
Yeah. So I was talking to Clay about just kind of an idea, just kind of these when I kind of put together kind of my spreadsheet of like player values and ADP and just different things, and I could try to look at all that. And these 3 hitters were hitters that kept popping up like green on my spreadsheet of like paired values. And I was like, well, I really love Hunter Dozier. I just can't quit Hunter Dozier. So it gave me an opportunity gave me an opportunity to write about Hunter Dozier. So again, whether you believe in, projections, basically it's like projections versus ADP is what I kind of looked at there, and just kind of like, their seemingly values there. So, but also the trend with these 3 hitters was I looked at their 2019 season and, maybe 2019's outlier for, at least 2 of them, and Christian Walker and Hunter Dozier. So that's kind of how it started. It's just like looking at some projection auction values kind of versus ADP and finding quote values.
And I love the values because all 3 of those guys I've been looking and enjoying later in drafts. Like, Manny's just, can he play regularly enough? I guess is the question with Tampa Bay. If he can, he's going to be very productive. Dozier, I get sucked into him all the time. I know exactly what you're talking about. You look at the contact rates, you look at this, that, and the other, and you're just like, he should be so much better than this. He really should be. So yeah, I'm with you there.
Yeah, and with like Dozier, especially with Dozier and Walker, like those are 2 guys that I'm like injury or COVID, like right around that time. After that, they're awful. So I'm just kind of chalking it up to some of that, or at least to me, there's some like injury related things that could have impact. I think for Walker's like oblique or something. So to me, it was like, well, maybe 2019 was outlier, but also there's some reasonable reasons for struggles there.
Yeah, most definitely. I'm with you there. It'll be fun to see if they can bounce back, and they are all great values over there in your draft rooms. You don't have to give it all away, but what's cooking next between RotoWire and Fantrax? What's your next article you got coming up?
If I have time, I might do another one of these Valley pieces here. But yeah, still haven't figured out what I'm doing in season quite yet. Uh, I'll be honest, for a couple weeks here, I was a little burnt out from I think some of the lockout stuff and just like grinding out content up into the off season, and then kind of hit a halt here. So kind of been moving a little slower here, trying to kind of get my feet under me and reassess.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. Sometimes it's good to take a step back and just kind of take a deep breath because it can be overwhelming. There's so much going on, so much content that could be pushed out, all kinds of fun stuff like that. We do have one listener question, and it's more of a joke question than anything. But Bjorn Masterson basically says, "What do you?" I'll get rid of the BS. What do you expect from Sega Suzuki this year?
He's been someone that I haven't drafted. Just because it's kind of one of those things where if I don't know a ton about somebody, like, I hear all these things, but yeah, if I haven't seen a ton, you know, I guess I live on Fangraphs and baseball stuff, so I can't see a ton of that, or someone can't, someone I don't know doesn't get some live, looks at them, that it's kind of hard to assess. But based on what we know, I mean, power's there, OBP skills, batting average skills. I think it's probably a positive that he lands with the Cubs because should get a full run at playing time there, or at least there's opportunity there, right? It would be kind of a bummer if it was like Ha-Seong Kim last year, where he kind of comes into a situation where it's a little crowded and playing time's kind of sporadic. So I'm not sure what to expect, but I'm hopefully it won't be a guy that I'm like, oh man, I missed out.
Well, you mentioned Ha-Seong Kim. What are your thoughts on him this year? Because he might actually have a path to playing time now.
Coming a year ago, Dave Swan was really into, buddy that I always chat with on him. He's really into Ha-Seong Kim. And, I think the bat to ball skills are there. I think it's just seeing if that power develops. He's another guy with some really good plate skills. So we'll see how that translates over. I mean, in theory, he should accumulate, double-digit home runs, double-digit steals, but I don't know. He's probably going to bat towards the bottom of the lineup, so I don't know how much the counting stats are going to be there. So you're hoping the batting average and plate skills kind of come back closer to what it was in the KBO, but again, small sample in 2021, but that would be something to monitor, is like, how does the plate discipline shake out? And can he, hit the ball hard enough to make that matter? So
yeah, no, that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because now that he's got the time, can't he be the guy type situation? So that'll be kind of fun to check out. But on that note, Corbin, I'm going to wrap things up. Thanks for joining me. Before we head on out of here, why don't you once again plug everything, let people know where they can find you, any other nuggets you got for the fantasy baseball season?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Bubba. Thanks for having me on. Good chatting with you. And yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Corbin_Young21. Mostly fantasy baseball stuff's going to be at Fantrax and RotoWire. So yeah, I'll probably have a weekly article coming out once the season gets going here, and maybe one more before this big draft weekend. But yeah, other than that, it's just kind of be focusing on those final drafts that we all have to right before opening day. So that's where you can find it.
It's going to be here quickly. It's crazy. The lockout was just like a week to 10 days ago, and here we are ready to start the season here in like 2 more weeks. So yeah. It's flying by in a hurry. So take your breather, get ready, because it's going to be a full go here again. But Corbin, thanks for joining me, man. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to doing this again sometime.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot.
Everybody check him out again on Twitter at Corbin_Young21. This was Benched with Bubba, episode 454. Catch you guys next time.